I'm a geek and I'm Hispanic, and today I'm talking about The Greatest Showman, Just Hands. This film overall was, in a way, surprising and disappointing at the same time. What I felt in this film was that it had the potential to be so much more. And I would see a scene or a moment and I would think, that doesn't really work, or then I would see something and be like, this works fantastic. And that's, I think, the biggest problem with The Biggest Showman. I think the directing was a bit odd at some points. I feel like the director of this film wasn't very familiarized with making a musical. But let's start from the beginning, the story. I think the story has, again, some really great points, messages, and some not great things. Let's start with the negatives. It is very rushed. The first 15 minutes of the movie, at least like 20 things happen, and it's extremely fast. Even the first scene is kind of like, whoa, okay, I wasn't expecting that. But then once you accept it, you kind of just roll with it. Because what would happen in this film is you see P.T. Barnum's coming up with the circus. But it jumps from 0 to 10 and it just, there's no kind of in between. And when you see that in between, it's very, very short. Like the circus, for example, he looks for this group of people that are unique, with special talents. Let's call them the freaks. The freaks, unfortunately, you don't see their training or the feelings. I think in the story kind of failed to don't have much focus on them. It just focused so much on P.T. Barnum's that in the end, the really interesting characters that you expected from the trailers, like, oh, I want to see more about this bearded lady, you kind of barely see, which I think is very disappointing. I think a great example of this is Madagascar 3. Sounds a bit odd, but hear me out. In that film, you see them struggling to come up with the circus, and you see the insecurities of the people inside the circus. You feel more for them, and you see the process of them building the circus, and then in the last scene in Madagascar 3, you have this epic show. In this one, you don't have that training. I think it would have been so interesting to see P.T. Barnum kind of talking, give them pep talks of, accepting who you are, and, see them failing in their acts. And maybe then succeeding, kind of like a montage about that, but you didn't have any of that, which I thought was a bit disappointing. It just kind of jumped from one thing to another, from getting cast to giving a great show. And I don't think that's realistic. These people came from a whole life of being treated awfully or cast away in society. So I don't think it would have been from one day to another, it's like, yeah, I'm going to be on stage and dance around in front of people. I don't think that made sense. I think a very cool part of this film would have been to explore more of these freaks and see their insecurities, how they also, because that's also a great message that you can teach a lot of people and see them overcome. And that's why I think Madagascar 3 did such a good job in developing the process. And you see elephants in this film, you're like, they just show up and you don't know where they come from. How did he come up with having elephants? They also talk about the family in this film. Again, they keep telling you, we're a family, we're a family. And in the bad part is you only get to barely meet the people in the show, the freaks. It's all about P.T. Barnum and his personal life. And it's weird because in the trailers they sell you this idea that it's all about the circus. And it's really not all about the circus. There's so many points in the film where it just goes to P.T. Barnum's own obstacles and his own life at home with his family. And there's some points in the film where I'm just like, what is going on with the freaks? Like, and they have their moments and they're very powerful, but it's just that feeling of I want more of them. They have so much potential. Yeah, there's also a moment in this film where P.T. Barnum goes on a tour. I don't want to give any spoilers, but for me it just felt very boring scene, not that interesting. It felt went slow. I feel like out of all the moments they rushed, that would have been one that they could have rushed. I think the CGI at some points, it was a bit obvious, especially with animals such as elephants and lions. It was just like, okay, that's very CGI. But in the end, it works, and I appreciate that. So next thing I want to talk about is the music. Of course, it's a musical, and it's very important to talk about the music. So I think this film was, in a way, a surprise for me. When I heard this film was written and composed by the people from La La Land, part of me was hesitant because although I did enjoy some of the songs in La La Land, I wasn't a huge fan of the overall soundtrack. I feel it was, in the end, nothing that very touching or anything out of this world. So I went a bit hesitant, but one of the composers also wrote music for the Broadway musical Dear Evan Hansen, which has one of my all-time favorite songs in Broadway called Waving Through a Window. So part of me was like, maybe, I don't know how I'm gonna feel about this, but the music was a big surprise for me. But at the same time, again, it was a yes and a no. Overall, I do like the soundtrack. I feel like you can't just go and listen to it at home without watching the film. The music is a tool that works with the film really well. It just works in the way that they're connected. I feel like you can listen to it like the song individually, but it's not the same feeling. Especially the first song. There's a lot of pauses, but they have a reason why. Because in the film, there's a lot of, talking, and I don't want to spoil anything, but there's a reason why there's pauses in the music. But if you listen to the music, you're like, what? That's kind of weird. Why there's just like a pause now? But if you watch the film, it makes sense. And watching this film, I remember the first song, well, actually the second one. It's so charming and beautiful. I was in the movie theater and I was just smiling. I was like, it's just been 5 minutes and I'm loving every second of this number. It was very rushed, but it was so magical and beautiful, and I loved the singing and everything was amazing. And throughout the film, as I was watching, there were some songs that I thought were powerful, beautiful and amazing, but some of them that were kind of forgettable and not that great. None of them was awful. None of the songs were like, okay, this is, how could they write this awful? But I think at least the majority of the songs are very special and beautiful. That said, I want to talk about the choreography and the musical numbers, because that's something that I was actually disappointed. I think it's great that they incorporated like hip hop and things like that, even though it doesn't match the time period. I mean, you're talking to someone who really likes Hamilton, all about, mixing up, music styles with time periods. I think it's wonderful. But I think it was also the choreography problem and the director problem, because the choreography, what kind of fell for me, it took out the heart of the musical number. What I mean by this is, for example, before going to watch this movie, I saw some workshops, some behind the scenes of this film, that they were just kind of practicing the song. And there's no choreography, there's all just in a room, dancing and singing together and having a great time. They're like doing this, looking at each other, there's a lot of energy, people are doing eye contact with each other, and it's great. And so I kind of expected that in the film. But when you're watching the film, it's a beautiful choreography, but it took out that heart and in the moment. I feel like they were just doing 5, 6, 7, 8, dance, 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 kind of like robot in a way, and not much feeling that moment and having that connection between each other. I think the choreographer was just focusing more of like, this is a cool dance move, rather than, pushing this message of family, of the people in the circus. Some moments were very strong though. There's a moment with Zendaya where the song This Is Me happens, and she has a little moment which is, I was like, there were so many moments in this film that are so great. Why? Because again, I did not mention this much in the story, but I should have. This film talks about some very important themes and messages. For example, family, inclusion, and being proud of yourself. What makes you different is what makes you special, and you should be proud of it. And it talks about some serious topics that were like, wow, kind of like Zootopia. Like, you're like, okay, I didn't expect that. And it was done in such a wonderful way, which is discrimination and and pretty much prejudice. How do you pronounce that? Prejudice? Prejudice. The people were not, they were bullied, the people, these freaks in the circus, because they were different. In this film, like Coco, what did really good was making you feel stuff. Because you went from mad to happy to crying to laughing. When you were supposed to feel mad, you were mad. When you were supposed to be happy, you were happy. And I think that's the thing that this movie did really good, giving you a lot of emotions. It wasn't just one note. It was a whole experience and journey, which I really appreciated. I think Zendaya did a phenomenal job. I mean, this role was very hard I can imagine to do, from the trapeze to the topics that were involved around her. And I think she did. I had to cry almost twice with her performance. She was phenomenal. Hugh Jackman, we know this is not his first musical. He did Les Mis, which I love that musical, but I was not a huge fan of his singing then. In this film, I was quite surprised. He did way better than in Les Mis, but still, I don't think was amazing, like with every song. But I think in most songs he did really good, and I think his passion for this project, you could really see it in his performance. When he was dancing, he was giving it its all. So I think in acting wise, he did a great performance. I think he said this was his hardest project in the way that to get in character. So you can really see his amount of work that he put on this project. I love that they actually have this trapeze number of a song where Zendaya sings with Zac Efron, and she's actually doing all the stunts. I think I love that detail, that it made the moment so magical, and that was my favorite song in the film, I think, Rewrite the Stars, and that was a very great highlight of the film for me. There was so much emotion in that song. These are all my thoughts in this film. In conclusion, I want to say that this film was, in a way, great but disappointing at the same time. Great moments, but there was so much potential to make it one of the best musicals ever. But for me, that was my problem. I was like, oh, this could have been better. Like, the choreography kind of like doesn't really fit there. There was just too many camera shifts. Instead of making it like, I understand this is not the theater, you can just have one shot of the entire thing, but I feel like it was changing too much, and just maybe like a close-up of one person and another close-up for another, instead of having like the whole number shown. But again, some of these musical numbers were unbelievable and amazing, and I really want to watch this again. I think it's a very fun film, and you definitely should go watch it with your family. I think, something I didn't mention is the wife. I wasn't a huge fan of her singing voice, but there's some two little girls who played daughters who also did amazing. But overall, a really great cast. And I don't know how can I rank this film? Again, when it's such a mix of feelings, which is so strong in some points and so low in some others, I think I give it, as a musical in general, I give it like a 7. It's not the greatest thing I've ever seen, but it's not the worst at all. It definitely has great potential, and Hugh Jackman, this was his passion project, and I'm very happy it went well. And one little quick thing is, this film had a lot of controversy because there's a guy who invented the circus, and this film kind of just shows the good side of it, right? Of the accepting everyone, and everything's wonderful, nothing bad happens in the circus. But they don't really go with the details about not so great things about his past, and many people have a problem with that because it's not accurate. It's not. What do you guys think about this controversy? Are you like against this film movie because it's not accurate, historically accurate, or you're just like, this is entertainment? That's the point of this film, to give a beautiful message about inclusion and loving your uniqueness. Thank you so much for watching. Subscribe, and I'll see you all very soon. I forgot my intro. How was it? My prejudice? Prejudice. I'm just gonna write it down here. Controversy? Controversy. What is that? It was horrible! Why don't we rewrite the stars? Say you were meant to be mine. What was it? I was like, whoo, sliding to the DMs like, Greatest Showman.